The alarm screamed like angry nebulae as the station's corridors rattled under the shockwaves of distant explosions, and somewhere in the chaos, Lieutenant Cale Finn ducked behind a support beam, wiping sweat from his brow and muttering, "Of course, I picked the week the universe decides to explode." He peeked around the metal strut and saw her. A woman, human in shape, with long, elegant ears that twitched with every passing echo, crouched behind a control console as blaster fire seared the air around her. She was pregnant, though her belly didn't impede her swift, desperate movements. Cale swallowed the urge to comment on the impossible odds and, with a quick glance at the incoming patrol droids, ran toward her. "Hey," he shouted over the din. "I don't usually do hero work before breakfast, but you seem urgent." She spun, startled, and for a moment their eyes met, hers wide, sharp, and radiant with fear, his squinting under the harsh red emergency lighting. "Get back," she hissed, but her voice carried a strange melodic lilt that seemed to vibrate in tune with the station's failing gravity fields. Cale grinned and dodged a plasma bolt that ricocheted off the wall, narrowly missing his helmet. "Yeah, right, because running away from 3 heavily armed droids seems like a better plan," he joked, though the laughter felt brittle in his throat. They bolted together, ducking through a maintenance shaft where zero-gravity panels occasionally loosened and spun like confused asteroids. Cale kept a hand on her back, steadying her as she floated precariously past a jagged edge. "By the way," he said, trying to lighten the tension, "your ears, fantastic for radar, terrible for subtlety. I'll bet everyone sees you coming a mile away." She scowled, but he caught the hint of a smirk. "Not funny," she said, though the corner of her mouth twitched. "Try not to die," he replied. "I hear that ruins your plans." As they reached the docking bay, Cale could see the enemy ships waiting, sleek and merciless, scanning for any life signs. He gestured toward a small transport, battered but operable. "We can make it," he said, though inside he calculated the odds in his head and muttered, "which is basically 0, but I like the thrill." The alien woman, panting, pressed her hands against the wall for leverage. "You do realize," she said, voice strained, "if I die, my child and my entire people are at risk." He froze for a fraction of a second, then quipped, "Well, that's awkward. I was only planning to save you, not start a galactic incident." The docking bay erupted in a flare of lights as enemy reinforcements arrived. Cale pressed a panel, opening the transport's airlock just as a gravity pulse knocked him sideways. The woman stumbled against him, and he caught her with a skill born of too many close calls. "Hold still, or we both become abstract art," he said, and somehow, against all odds, they both landed safely inside the cramped cockpit. He fumbled with the controls, muttering obscenities at systems that seemed to mock him by blinking in complex alien code. She leaned over his shoulder, ears twitching, and snatched the manual, flipping it upside down. "You're doing it wrong," she said, voice laced with both exasperation and amusement. Cale raised an eyebrow. "Not a lot of room for sarcasm when the universe wants to kill you." She glared, then sighed, her lips twitching in reluctant acknowledgement. Engines hummed to life, the ship trembling as they rose above the station's failing docks. Outside, space sprawled in vast ribbons of starfields, planets spinning like jeweled marbles and distant explosions lighting the void like fireworks gone wrong. Cale slumped into his seat and glanced at her. "So, pregnant, alien, and apparently royalty," he said, trying to sound casual. "Why exactly did I think this would be a quiet mission?" She looked at him, eyes glittering with a mixture of fatigue and sharp intelligence. "Because you are hopelessly human," she replied, a hint of wry humor threading her words. As hyperspace rippled around them, the station shrinking to a pinprick of light, Cale allowed himself a brief grin. "Hopelessly human," he repeated. "I like the sound of that. Makes me sound important." She didn't answer immediately, but the faint twitch of her ears suggested she might be plotting her own witty comeback. For now, though, survival took precedence. Outside, the galaxy stretched infinitely, filled with dangers, politics, and possibilities neither of them fully understood. Inside, a human warrior and a pregnant alien woman clung to the improbable truth. Sometimes, the universe rewarded recklessness with chance, and perhaps, just perhaps, courage with a sprinkle of humor could change everything. Their laughter, small and defiant, echoed in the cockpit as the first real stretch of quiet fell over them. Cale muttered, "Next time, maybe just coffee." The alien woman shot him a look that promised revenge in 3 distinct ways if they survived. Cale grinned anyway, leaning back, finally letting himself breathe. Though he knew deep down, this was only the beginning. The ship drifted through hyperspace with a hum that was both comforting and maddening, the kind of sound that made Cale question whether his eardrums were secretly plotting against him. He leaned back in the pilot's chair, rubbing the bridge of his nose, and muttered, "I survive one death-defying rescue, and suddenly I'm in charge of an empire's most delicate political asset." The alien woman, floating a few feet above the floor in zero gravity, tilted her head at him, ears twitching like antennas for mischief. "Careful, human," she said, voice carrying the faint lilt of amusement. "Your sarcasm will get us killed." Cale snorted, "At least it won't be boring." She crossed her arms, but the motion made her long ears sway gently. "You don't understand," she said, her tone suddenly more serious, though the glint in her eyes suggested she might be teasing anyway. "If we are caught, it's not just my life at risk. My child carries the lineage of my people. There are factions, thousands of them plotting, waiting. And you," she paused dramatically, "are hopelessly human." Cale grinned despite himself. "That part I got." Their journey took them to the outer rim of the Helix Nebula, a place where the stars were drowned in swirling clouds of iridescent gas and rogue asteroids drifted like cosmic debris. Cale grumbled about navigation systems that seemed to have a mind of their own, while the alien woman traced intricate patterns in the air with her fingers, manipulating the ship's gravitic fields with subtle gestures. "Impressive," he said, "but you realize this is the second time I've been rescued by someone who can probably crush me with a flick of their wrist." She raised an eyebrow. "You're exaggerating." Cale chuckled, "Only slightly." They stopped at a small trading station tucked behind an asteroid cluster, its docking bays humming with activity. Cale stepped onto the platform, scanning for threats, and promptly stepped on a floating crate, sending it tumbling into a group of merchants. "Oops," he muttered. The alien woman shot him a look, a mix of exasperation and restrained laughter. "Some heroes leave footprints, others leave craters," she quipped. Cale shrugged. "I prefer subtlety, but apparently subtlety isn't in my skill set." They managed to barter for supplies, though Cale's tendency to misunderstand alien currency nearly got them ejected. "Next time," she said dryly, "let's just hack a bank." Back aboard the ship, tension eased only slightly as Cale attempted to teach the alien woman how to make a human cup of instant coffee using the ship's replicator. The results were predictably disastrous, producing a steaming green sludge that emitted sparks and a faint scent of ozone. "Tastes energetic," she said, grimacing but smiling. Cale laughed. "You're just being polite. It's horrid. But consider it a bonding experience." Their humor was interrupted when Cale noticed sensors blinking rapidly. "Oh," he muttered, "looks like we've got company." Outside the viewport, sleek enemy drones, silver and black, glided silently through the nebula. "I suppose subtlety went out the window," he said, strapping in. The alien woman's ears twitched in irritation. "Just follow my lead," she said, her hands moving with fluid precision, activating shield generators and gravitic disruptors that sent the drones tumbling off course. Cale swore, impressed despite himself. "I should have learned how to do that in basic training," he said. "Instead, I got a medal for surviving an awkward dinner with a captain." As they evaded the patrol, Cale began to understand the complexity of her world. She spoke of her people, their intricate alliances, and the delicate balance of power that hinged on her survival. He asked questions, many of which she answered with patience and subtle amusement at his constant misunderstandings. "You see," she explained, "being pregnant in hiding is not unlike piloting through a minefield in zero gravity while negotiating peace treaties, except with more hormones and less sleep." Kale laughed. "Welcome to parenthood, then." She blinked, unamused but slightly softened, and he realized she was trying to make him see the stakes in human terms he could grasp. Later, as the nebula's glow filtered through the cockpit, Kale caught her looking at him, her expression thoughtful. "You do realize," she said, "this child will symbolize hope for millions. And yet you're still managing to be ridiculous at every turn." Kale grinned. "I take that as a compliment." She sighed, ears twitching with an almost imperceptible smile. "You are impossible human." The night, or whatever passed for night in hyperspace, stretched long and silent as they drifted toward a neutral system. Kale sat back, watching the stars ripple outside, and thought about how absurd it all was. A human warrior, a pregnant alien heir, a stolen ship, and the fate of an empire hanging on their luck, wits, and improbable courage. "Next time," he muttered, "I want a simple mission, maybe cleaning space debris, or meditating on a quiet asteroid." The alien woman's quiet laughter echoed in the cockpit, soft and melodic. "Simple is overrated," she said. "And anyway, I've grown fond of your absurdity." For the first time, Kale felt a measure of connection, not just to her, but to the stakes they carried together. Humor, as it turned out, was more than distraction. It was survival, it was sanity, and it was the first fragile bridge between two worlds that might never have met under kinder circumstances. Outside, the nebula's clouds swirled like living paint, and Kale realized that whatever came next, they would face it together, imperfect, ridiculous, and alive. The ship's engines thrummed in a steady rhythm as Kale Finn navigated through the glittering tangle of the Imperial capital's orbital defenses, each station a silent sentinel of the empire his passenger was meant to inherit. He rubbed his hands together nervously, muttering, "Nothing says 'welcome home' like dozens of automated turrets programmed to vaporize anything they don't recognize." The alien woman sat across from him, her long ears flicking in amusement as she tapped a console that made the ship hum and shift, aligning perfectly with a concealed docking bay. "You worry too much," she said, voice laced with both command and teasing. "You forget I've survived attempts on my life before breakfast." Kale grinned. Breakfast would be nice. Surviving assassination attempts, less so. They docked with a clatter that somehow avoided alarms, and the two of them moved through corridors where holographic couriers and AI aides flitted about, delivering urgent messages and encrypted threats alike. Kale found himself marveling at the architecture, fluid, alive, and slightly unsettling, as if the station itself judged the people within it. The alien woman led him with confidence, her eyes sharp, scanning every shadow, every reflection. "Remember," she said quietly, "these halls are a battlefield of politics as much as any physical fight. Every wrong word, every misstep could tip the balance." Kale nodded, trying to internalize the gravity of the situation while suppressing the urge to joke. "Mostly. So basically, diplomacy is just walking through a minefield and hoping the mines are polite." She blinked, then twitched her ears in what Kale interpreted as reluctant approval. Inside the council chamber, holographic maps and floating symbols depicted the delicate threads of alliance, rebellion, and intrigue. Kale felt out of place, yet oddly capable when he realized his human bluntness cut through the obfuscation. The alien woman explained alliances, betrayals, and conspiracies with surgical precision, occasionally rolling her eyes at Kale's literal interpretations, and his penchant for cracking jokes at the worst possible moments. "You're going to get us both executed if you don't stop commenting on the holographic chairs," she whispered. Kale shrugged innocently. "I'm just saying, the one with the neon trim could use a cushion. Comfort first, empire second." She sighed, ears twitching, but he noticed the faintest twitch of a smile. Suddenly, the doors burst open and rival factions surged in. holographic weapons flaring, gravitic fields warping to disorient the intruders. Kale leapt into action, instinctively shielding the pregnant alien woman, using a combination of human ingenuity and stolen alien tech to turn their attacks into chaos. He triggered a gravitic pulse that sent enemy weapons spinning harmlessly across the chamber, while the alien woman, with precise gestures, manipulated energy fields that immobilized the leaders of the coup. "You really shouldn't be this effective," she said, panting slightly, her tone more admiration than reproach. Kale smirked. "I never am, except today. Today I'm terrifyingly effective." As the last of the rival leaders were subdued, Kale realized how much he had changed. The reckless humor, the sarcasm, the half-joked bravery, each had matured into a sharper awareness of stakes, responsibility, and the power of action, even when absurdity lingered. He had learned to read danger, trust instincts, and value life beyond personal survival. Looking at the alien woman, whose determination and intelligence had guided them through near-impossible odds, he felt both respect and something deeper. A bond forged in laughter, peril, and shared purpose. The alien woman approached the central console, and with a delicate motion of her hands and ears flicking in concentration, stabilized the political fracturing of her empire. Messages flew, alliances solidified, and emissaries arrived to pledge loyalty. The empire's future, once teetering on the edge of chaos, now stood secure. Kale watched, realizing that his role, though small in appearance, had been pivotal. Courage and humanity often tipped scales that diplomacy alone could not. He muttered, "Who knew my idiocy could save a galaxy?" She laughed, low and melodic, shaking her head. Hopelessly human indeed, but effective, surprisingly so. With the immediate threat neutralized, Kale and the alien woman finally had a moment of quiet. She leaned back, her long ears brushing the console, and allowed herself a brief sigh of relief. Kale, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished, grinned. "So, empire saved, child secured, human still alive, think we deserve a drink." She raised an eyebrow, then smirked. "Perhaps. Though you should know, our definition of drink may involve something highly volatile and glowing." Kale laughed, already imagining the chaos, but accepted the offer nonetheless. As they floated through the balcony overlooking the orbital city, the stars stretching infinitely beyond, Kale realized the enormity of their journey. A simple mission of rescue had transformed into a saga of political intrigue, near-impossible survival, and profound connection between two worlds. The alien woman, once just a figure in danger, had become a partner in thought, strategy, and laughter. And he, once a lone warrior content with narrow victories, had grown into someone capable of navigating complexity, danger, and responsibility, all while keeping his humor intact. The alien woman turned to him, eyes bright and voice soft. "The child will inherit a stable empire thanks to you." Kale shrugged, smiling wryly. "Don't tell anyone, I'm terrible with titles, but happy to help." She laughed, the sound resonating through the chamber like a melody threaded with relief and hope. Outside, the stars continued to spin, indifferent yet witness to the improbable events that had unfolded. Kale looked at her and said quietly, "Next mission we aim for something easier, maybe tea on a quiet moon." She shook her head, chuckling. "You will never survive ordinary human." And for the first time, Kale didn't mind. The galaxy had changed, their lives had changed, and in the swirling chaos of survival, courage, and laughter, they had found something enduring: trust, friendship, and the improbable magic of two very different worlds colliding and surviving together. The Empire was safe, the child secure, and Kale, hopelessly human, had finally discovered what it meant to be both hero and partner in a universe far larger, stranger, and more alive than he had ever imagined.